Hi there, this is Dr. Embody, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about how to get started with Project 3. And we can begin by taking a look at the project itself. So what are we trying to do here? Well, we're making Latin squares, and really all a Latin square is just a bunch of numbers. In this case, we have an example of order 6. And the numbers go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the first row. Second row starts at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, goes back to 1. And then the next row starts at 3. So we see this progression 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 going left to right in each row. And then each of these rows starts at some number but doesn't get bigger than 6. So 5, 6, then you go back starting at 1, 2, 3, 4. Two numbers determine what's going on here. One is the order, the 6. That tells us that we have 6 rows and 6 columns. And the other is the starting point. So this one starts with the number 1, this one starts with the number 3. So it goes 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, and then we can work down 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. So how do we start with something like this? Well, one of the things that you have to do, before you can really think about this problem, you have to get more comfortable with looping and how to generate some numbers with loops. Here, clearly we're looping through 6 rows and 6 columns. Now, how does that work in Python? Well, let's take a look at that, and let's put up the Python shell and try to play around with it. Now here we have a loop within a loop, so let's try 2 loops for a in range 5, and you could do, I'm doing this with 4s, you could just as easily do it with whiles. I just happen to like 4s because we know exactly how long we're going to be doing this. Let's do range of, say, 3. I'm making them different just so we can get a better idea of what is going on. And let's print the A. And since we know we're going to be printing numbers on the same line, we can use the fact that one of our possible arguments here is the end argument. And usually, and the default is to the n is a carriage return, that \n, that weird combination of characters, that's a carriage return. In this case, when we don't want a carriage return, we want to put a space between each number, and so our end will be equal to a space. So we go end equals a space, and let's see what we get. So we printed the numbers 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, and so on, all the way up to 5. And what's going on here? Well, our A goes from 0 to 5. So the initial value of A is 0, and then within that suite we go B in the range of 0 to 3. And so now B will have values of 0, 1, and 2. We go up 2, but not including 3. And each time, each of these 3 times, we print the value of A, which is 0. So that's why we see 0, 0, 0. Then we're done with the suite for B, which also happens to be done for the suite for A. We come back, we grab the next A. A has a value of 1. And again, B goes through the values of 0, 1, and 2, and each time we print A again. So we print a 1, a 1, and a 1, and again we see the 1, 1, 1. Now you can see the pattern: 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4. We're out of our A's have gone from 0 to 4, so we're all done with them, and we see these 3 sets of numbers. However, that's not at all what we want. What do we want? Well, we would like to have those printed in rows. So how can we do that? Well, what I'd like to do here is, after I have printed all of the ones when a is 0, I'd like to put a carriage return in there. And then the next value of a. And then the next value of a. And how can I do that? Well, I can do that by, when I'm all at the end of the suite for a, just do a print. And that's effectively a carriage return. And now I get the a's with value of 0 printed in one row, the a's with value of 1 printed in the next row, and so on. All right, so that's nice because we see that we get this column now goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's starting to look a lot like the column over here. All right, but the rows are not are staying all at the same value. So how might I take care of that aspect? Well, again, playing around in here. What happens if instead of printing A's, I print the B's? Now I see that each row now is increasing, but now within each row the numbers are increasing, but of course the columns aren't. And the other thing is that we see in the example that everything is starting with 1. So let's fix that. So we'll go from 1. So that we have 3 of them. Let's go 1 to 4. And now I can see, aha, I now have a situation where I'm starting at 1 and I go 1, 2, 3. Well, that's part of the problem. 1, 2, 3. I can go up to 4, 5, 6. So that's nice. How about what else can I? Well, it would be nice if every time we were getting values increasing in both of these. So notice that the way I look at this is that if here my a is 1, then here my a is 2, here my a is 3. So the value that I'm starting at shouldn't be 1 each time, it should be a. And let's take a look at that. So we'll start at a, and let's go up to a plus 4. Now each time through the loop, whatever row I'm on, I will start with that number. Okay, so when I'm in row 0, it starts at 0, it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then when I'm at row 1, we start with 1. So now things are starting to look a little better. There's my columns, right? Increasing, and each of my rows is increasing. 0, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, in this case, I have 4 columns, and yet my numbers include 5 and 6, and I'm not starting at 0. So there's still a lot to do here, but you could see how I've started in the shell, playing around with it. Now I'm getting a little bit of a sense of how to use loops within loops to generate this square of numbers. And now you have to deal with the fact that, okay, yes, I've got my numbers increasing, but I have this issue of, for example, once I get up to 6, now I want to start all over again. And there's multiple ways of doing that. You may put in an if statement in here someplace. So if I recognize some kind of a condition, then I'll do something. Some of you may want to think in terms of remainders. So it's all, how you decide to do this, there's multiple ways to do it. But at this point, you've got a sense of how the loops go. Now you can start thinking about, all right, so what might I do to help with this so basically restart my counting there. So I did this with a couple of for loops. You may find it easier to, just the way you think about it, to do it with whiles. And that gives you a sense of the core. And let me point out, and that's as far as I'm going to go with the core of this problem. Just another thing you will notice, particularly in the example, that we ask you to check. So here, we say, well, they've got to be between 1 and 9, and somebody enters a 12. That's a bogus thing. So and the same thing, if they say it's 6 and we start with a 0, no, that's got to go from 1 to 6. So, this is checking for errors on input. And we frequently have this, and it's important. But what I would suggest that you do is always do this part of a programming project last. I mean, we can write this programming project always entering the right numbers. It's just some user may do that. So always leave the error checking to last, because it will it's something that because we always have it, it's something that will become quite natural and relatively easy for you to do. Leave it to the end when maybe you're tired and we can just do this. All right, so there's some ideas on getting started with this project.